Convince. It is one of the most commonly and frequently used words in English communication. If you make someone believe you, or agree with you, or accept whatever you say, it is called convincing. These are the different ways of making sentences with the word convince. Read the sentences as many times as possible. Read them loudly, clearly, so that you can use them in your communication. Sentences. You can't convince me anymore. Do you think you can convince your parents? How can you convince your parents with such explanation? Now don't try to convince me. Somehow I convinced him. I cannot convince you. Please give me time. I can convince you. You should try to convince the customer. I am sure he will again convince you. He gets convinced very easily. It is not that easy to convince him. Convince your boss if you can. Nobody can convince such stubborn person. It sounds convincing. Though your explanation sounds convincing, I can't help you. It doesn't sound convincing at all. No, I am not convinced with what you say. Of course, I am fully convinced with what you say. You should have tried to convince the patient. If you had given me an opportunity, I could have convinced all your clients. He does not have patience, otherwise, he would have convinced you. Please don't convince me, I don't trust you anymore. I am successful in convincing all my customers. He has failed in convincing us. You are not good at convincing the patients. You do not have patience to convince the children. Mothers are quite good at convincing their children. All that we need is patience to convince someone. With patience, love, logical arguments, one can convince anyone. An advertisement should be convincing to the viewers. So, these are some of the commonly frequently used sentences with the word convincing. Read the sentences loudly, clearly, repeatedly to train the tongue. Understand the situation and the sentence structure clearly. Always make own examples to improve your spontaneity and fluency. But never do grammar exercises. They don't improve our communication skills. Thank you. Keep learning English language. Have a great time.